So we're going to begin by chanting. You have it memorized? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasyam Purnamadhyaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Guess I'll wait till you get your books open. So we'll begin with the invocation again. Ready? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhyaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Mantra 1. Isharvashyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjitaha magvidaha kashushudhanam. Mantra 2. Kurvanevaha karmani jijivishakshutam samaha evam tvainanyate tosti na karma nipyute nare. Mantra 3. Asurya namate loka adhena tamasa britaha tamste pratya vigachanti yeke chatmahano janaha. Mantra 4. Anijare kamanasojhaviyo naina deva apnuvam purvam ashat tadhavatanyana tatitishtat tasminapo mattarishadadhati. Mantra 5. Tade jati tanai jati tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya taru sarvasya sabayataha. Mantra 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmayavenanupasyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato bhagijugupsate. Mantra 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmayavabhuddhijanataha tatra ko moha soka ekatmam anupasyataha. Moha, illusion. Mantra 8. Sabharya jakchukam akayam avranam vishnaviram shudam apapa vedham Kavir manishi paribhu swayambur yataryatoritam vidadaschastaptibhya samabhyaha. Mantra 9. Anham tamaham pravisanti ye vidyam upasate tatabhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam lataha. Mantra 10. Anyarevahur vidyaya anyarahur vidyaya iti shushumadhiranam yenastad vijachakshure. Mantra 11. Vidyam cha yastad virobayam saha avidyayam ritam tirva vidyayam ritam ashnute. Mantra 12. Antam tamaham pravishanti ye sambuddhim upassate tatabhuya ivate tamo yau sambuddham lataha. Mantra 13. Anyarivahu sambhavar anyarahura sambhavar iti shushumadhiranam yenastad vijachakshire. This verse means you have to know what is Maya so you can avoid it, and you have to know what is Krishna so you can go to it. That's what it means to know Neshes and knowledge side by side. 4. Well, no, the next verse. Next verses. Yeah. Yeah, the next verse. This verse we didn't discuss yesterday. Very little. 14. Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad virogayam saha vinasena mritam tirpa sambhutam mritam ashnute. That's the verse. You have to know how to get liberated, and you have to know not how to get deviated from liberation. Mantra 15. So 15 through 18 we'll discuss today, so I'm going to read the translations when we chant. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukam tattam puncham aparvanum satyadharmaya drishyaye. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. Mantra 16. Punchame karshi yamasuya prajapatya piyuharasmin samohat dijaha yate rupam kailantamam tate pasyami yosavaso purusham so asmi. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form full of bliss. You are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. In other words, you're like the sun and I'm like the ray of the sun. 17. Vayuranilam amritam atheram vashmantam shaliram Om kritos smara kritam smara kritos smara kritam smara. Let this temporary body be burnt into ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. Smara. Remember my sacrifices. Remember everything I've done. Om Krito Smara Kritam Smara. Krito Smara Kritam Smara. Remember all that's been done by me. Remember. Please remember all that I've done for you. It's like repeatedly praying. And mantra 18, the last verse. Agne naya supatarai asman vishvani deva vayunani vidvan yuyurajman jurahanam ena uyishtam tenama uktim vidhema. O my Lord, powerful as fire, omnipotent one, now I do offer you all obeisances, falling at your feet on the ground. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you, and as you know, all of what I have done in the past, please make me free from the reactions to my past sins, so there will be no hindrance to my progress. So, as you can see, the last verses 14, 15, 16, 17, the last 5 verses are prayers. Did you notice that? It's differentiated from the previous verses, which were establishing philosophical truths about the nature of Krishna and the demigods in the material world. So I just want to read 2 things from the end of the purport to Mantra 14, because yesterday we didn't actually do Mantra 14. I mean, indirectly we did Mantra 14 because whatever we discussed in the previous mantras was also the subject matter of Mantra 14. But second to last paragraph and the second to last line and the second to last paragraph of Mantra 14, I feel interesting points. And then through the next verses, we're going to pick out little points here and there, because what Prabhupada is explaining in the next verses is philosophy we all understand very well. It's basic, the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So I'm picking on some topics that might be of interest and elaborating on them, rather than trying to review everything in the purport, which I feel you already know. You already know very well. So we can take some points from the purport and then we can expand upon them. So, from the second to last purport, second to last line, the whole scheme, the whole Vedic scheme is meant to educate men in this art of attaining eternal life. Then we go to the next paragraph, the last sentence, last two sentences. So, the Vedas give the truth, and then the Prabhupada's addressing the truth. I thought this was kind of, in a sense, a little funny. There's no question of liking or disliking the truth. It is there. If we want to be saved from repeated birth and death, we must take to devotional service. There can be no compromise, for this is a matter of necessity. So we were talking, I believe we were talking here or in our evening classes, you know, people may say they want the truth, but when they're given the truth, they may not like it. And one philosopher said, the famous statement, the truth will set you free. We've all heard that, right? He said, at first it will make you, before it sets you free, it will upset you. Because when something is true, like you have to give up sense gratification, that's upsetting. You have to surrender to a higher authority who will tell you what to do. For most people, that's upsetting. But, so Prabhupada's saying here, this truth of Isopanisad will give you eternal life, and whether you like it or not, it's the truth. So, you know, it's not a question of you like it or not. Prabhupada says, no question of liking it or disliking it, it's the truth. But it's just interesting that when it comes down to it, most people don't like the truth. And we have that experience with preaching. A lot of times people will argue with the truth. And how do they argue with the truth? They say, it's not true. It's like Prabhupada gives the example. You give a dog a bad name, you've heard this saying? Give a dog a bad name and hang it. Right? Why'd you hang the dog? Oh, he was biting everybody. So he actually wasn't biting everybody, but he just wanted to hang the dog. So you tell everyone he's biting everyone, and then it's okay to hang it. So people will come to the Vedas and they don't want to surrender. They'll say, no, it's not true. It's just made up by somebody. So that's like giving the dog a bad name. And now because it's not true, I don't have to follow it. Right? So that's one way people rationalize their way around not surrendering to truth. Just say, well, it's not true. That solves the problem. I don't have to surrender to it. And so I thought it was interesting that Prabhupada saying, it doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it. It's true. It doesn't matter if you say it's not true. Because you can say there's no gravity, but when you jump out the building, it doesn't matter. What you've said has no bearing on the reality. So you can say so many things. But the reality is, if you want eternal life, this is the process. And if you want to say, no, I don't like it or I don't believe it, okay, that's your choice. But you're not believing it doesn't change the truth. I think a lot of people are like that. You know, karma can't be like this. It can't be so bad. I'm innocent. I just did this. And Sastri says I'm going to suffer this way. No, it can't be like that. Okay, you can think like that. It makes you feel good. But the reality and what you think may not be the same. Right? And so we like to hear from gurus who will tell us things we like to hear that make us feel comfortable. Right? And so if I tell you things that will make you feel comfortable, I'll become more popular. And if I tell you you have to surrender, then I'll become less popular. If I tell you the world is miserable, you don't want to hear that. It's not pleasant. Right? Who wants to hear that? I don't like that guru. He's always telling me things are bad. So that's what Prabhupada's saying. So let's go to text 15. Hiranmayena Patrena. Please remove your effulgence so I can see your face. I want to see you. Now, then, question comes up. Is it okay to pray to Krishna that I want to see you? Because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, well, don't ask Krishna to show himself to you, but act in a way that he will want to see you. So that's one attitude. Like you take darshan of the deity, but actually the deity is taking darshan of you. So that's one attitude. I'm not seeing Krishna, Krishna's seeing me. But one of my godbrothers asked Prabhupada about the prayer, my Lord Jagannath, please be visible to me. So he was thinking maybe that prayer is a contradiction to this idea that I should want to see Krishna. Prabhupada said it's okay because seeing Krishna also means Krishna revealing himself through realization or somehow revealing himself through the holy name or through the various processes of Krishna consciousness. You're experiencing Krishna's internal potency, experiencing the bliss. So Prabhupada said that actually, if Krishna doesn't reveal himself, if you don't have that experience, then there's no impetus to go on in your devotional service, because it's like, is Krishna actually there? I don't know, I never experienced him. And every day I'm getting up and 4 o'clock and taking a cold bath and chanting my rounds, and how long can you go on without experience? So, just like Takaharidas, he prayed to Lord Chaitanya, please give me a taste for the holy name. And we see, prayers, Nityananda, Prabhu, you're always happy and I'm always miserable, so make me happy. And so we see devotees are praying for some kind of taste, some kind of experience, because it becomes an impetus for service. So it's not personal sense gratification, it's just an impetus. So yes, we can pray, Krishna, please reveal yourself so that I can be inspired. And if Krishna, you reveal yourself to me, I'll be very inspired to share my realizations with others. And that will have a very positive effect on people. And if you want to share Krishna consciousness with other people and you have no realization, you will not have much power. People will look at you and they'll say, you look pretty miserable. And you're telling me this Krishna consciousness will make you happy, but when I look at you, I think, I don't want to be like you. So if you're not having realization, you're just doing austerity and no realization, your life will be difficult. But if you're having lots of realization, and when people see you, they'll say, I want to be like you. You're blissful. You're emanating spiritual Shakti. Right? So we definitely need realization for our own benefit and to share it. So now, in the purport, Prabhupada, because as I said, I have this book, these are the commentaries of 4 Acharyas. This is like highly philosophical analysis of the Sanskrit and what it means. And I'm not going to discuss it because if you're not asleep yet, this would put you to sleep for sure. So I'm trying to keep you awake for 2 hours. Right? And it's not always easy to keep you awake when I'm teaching something you already know. You're sitting there, I already know this. So, but here, as I said, Prabhupada's using this to preach to non-devotees, so he's talking about impersonal Brahman. So he begins this purport by quoting Brahmano hi pratishtaham, because it describes the effulgence in the verse. So naturally he's going to talk about that, because any opportunity Prabhupada has to expose the nature of impersonalism as inferior, or the nature of Mayavadis as offensive, he does it. And so it's natural he'll quote Brahmano hi pratishtaham from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the source of the effulgence. So then he quotes verses just to establish Krishna's supremacy, and this is something that Prabhupada often does, especially in the Gita. And one way of looking at that, of course, is the philosophical way that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. That's the conclusion of the Vedas, Vedasya Sarvam Vidya. And Prabhupada, as a representative of the Parampara, is coming to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that Prabhupada loves Krishna, and he wants everyone else to know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's both a philosophical approach and a rasa approach. That Krishna is God, and I want everyone to love him. And Krishna wants me to introduce everyone to him. So Prabhupada's always introducing Krishna and injecting Krishna. And then people will argue. It says in Bhagavad Gita, it says, Bhagavan Uvacha. And then Prabhupada said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said. Where does it say Lord Sri Krishna? It only says Bhagavan. So Prabhupada's injecting, no, Bhagavan is Krishna. Make it clear. And you know the story, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not God Consciousness. Right? And Prabhupada said, we will call this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Someone said, Swamiji, Krishna is sectarian. You should say God Consciousness. International Society for God Consciousness. That way it's more inclusive, right? When you say Krishna, well, that's your God. Prabhupada said, no, we want to establish Krishna because it's very specific. He's a person. Where God is amorphous, it's ambiguous. You say God and everybody has all a different idea. But Krishna? No. Who is God? If I say God, it doesn't tell me who is God. It's like saying, the International Society, it's like as Prabhupada said, God is a position and Krishna is the person in that position. The President of India, the Prime Minister of India, it's a position. Who is he? Oh, it's Mr. Modi. Oh, okay, that's the person. Personality of Godhead. God is the position and Krishna is the person who holds the position. So therefore he said, we're not going to call it International Society for God Consciousness, we're going to call it Krishna Consciousness, because everybody's got their nonsense idea of God. And we want to establish exactly who God is. So anytime Prabhupada has an opportunity in a purport which relates to establish, in a way you could establish the supremacy of Krishna and the inferiority or the difference between Brahman and Krishna, he'll always do it, because that's Nirvisesha. It's Prabhupada. You know this mantra, Nirvisesha Shunyavadi, you know where it came from? It came from Prabhupada. Generally the Guru doesn't write his own pranam mantra, but we couldn't write a pranam mantra. And so Prabhupada wanted to establish his mission. So he wrote his own pranam mantra to establish his mission. And what's his mission? Nirvisesha Shunyavadi. To expose the Mayavadis and the atheists. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachari. Nirvisesha Shunyavadi. Paschati Distata. You're saving the Western countries, and now you're saving India also, from Mayavad and impersonalistic, atheistic ideas. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So, here's a beautiful verse. This verse is from 10, 12, 11. The personality of Godhead. This is in the purport. You'll see the verse. Itam satam brahma sukanu bhutya tasyam kathanam param daivatena maya shritanam naradarakena shakam vijahu krita punya punjaha. Famous verse, krita punya. Well, this is describing the fortune of cowherd boys. The personality of Godhead, who is perceived as the impersonal, blissful Brahman by the Jnanis, who is worshipped as the Supreme Lord by devotees in the mood of servitorship, and who is considered an ordinary human being by mundane people, played with the cowherd boys, who had attained their position after accumulating many pious activities. So why did Prabhupada put this verse in? Because here he's delineating impersonal Brahman, and Krishna as Paramatma or Vasudeva, Narayan, and then Krishna as a person to distinguish the different aspects, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The same person, different aspects. So we have no problem with impersonalism as long as you understand where it comes from. That Krishna is the source of the Brahman effulgence. That's fine. But when you think the Brahman effulgence is the source of Krishna, that is not what our Shastra teaches us. So, now, Prabhupada makes another point, and I think this is an interesting point to discuss. Go down the next paragraph, and then go to the next paragraph. Since it is said Lord Krishna never leaves Vrindavan Dham, one may ask how he manages the affairs of creation. This is answered in Bhagavad Gita, 13, chapter, text 14 through 18. The Lord pervades the entire material creation by his plenary part known as the Paramatma, or Supersoul. Krishna says, 9th chapter, Maya Dakshina Prakriti. You know that verse? Maya Adakshina Prakriti. You know what that means? It means my eyes see everywhere. My eyes are everywhere. That's the verse. Maya Dakshina Prakriti. And so you say Sacharacharam, and because I see everything, everything's happening. If I don't see it, it doesn't happen. So, that's the Paramatma. It's because of him everything is going on. If he doesn't glance at material nature, it just remains dull. Nothing happens. Although the Lord personally has nothing to do with material creation, maintenance, and destruction, he causes all three things to be done by his plenary expansion, Paramatma. Every living entity is known as Atma, and the principal Atma, who controls all of them, is Paramatma. So, sometimes the example is given that a rich man, he doesn't work in the factory, but he hires people to work in the factory. And Krishna does that also, but he does it in a different way. He just expands himself. So he expands himself as Paramatma, and then everything is going on because Paramatma is everywhere, he knows everything. So, and then what does Krishna do? Natasya karyam karanam savidyate. He has nothing to do. What does it mean that he has nothing to do? He has nothing to do with the maintenance, the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. That's not what he does. And we had discussed this the other day. And I was saying, Jagannath Shami ki jai, Radha Krishna Chandra ki jai, Nitai Chaitanya ki jai, Lakshmi Nrsimha ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shnugadaya Krishna ki. Hold on everyone, it's time for darshan. Shnugadaya So we were describing the other night, I can't remember when we were describing it, but you remember I was saying that if you were God, would you be bothered by maintaining this world? Is that what you'd feel like that would give you happiness? That's what you like to do? Well, just like any ordinary man, if they have enough money, they're not going to work. They'll pay people to work. So, as we say, that propensity must come from Krishna, so that's his nature. So Prabhupada poses the question in the purport. It is said Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So if Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, and he's just playing all day, and dancing, and cowherding, and joking, and stealing butter, and passing urine on people's floors, and creating all kinds of mischief, how is the material creation going on? No problem for him. With a spark of my splendor, what need, Arjuna, is for all this knowledge about my Shakti? With one spark I maintain the universe. Okay, it's done. Krishna, can you maintain the universe? It's finished. Can you create it? Can you destroy it? Like that. What does Krishna say with minute? What's the actual word? What need is Arjuna for all this detailed knowledge with a fragment of mind? Yeah, so what's a fragment of mind? Yeah, ekam sena. Stito jigat. With a fragment, I the whole universe is maintained with a fragment of my Shakti. So what would be a fragment of your Shakti? Like you have an itch on your forehead, you scratch it. That doesn't take much Shakti. Or something like that. It's, okay, it's done. Krishna, can you maintain the world? Okay, it's done. It's going on. Let's go back and play. And you never see in Krishna Leela that Krishna stops his Leela, because he's got an emergency call from Lord Brahma, or Lord Vishnu, or having trouble maintaining the pipes have exploded, that never happens. His Leela is never interrupted because that's his Shakti. He said before Bala Shakti, Priya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. He has Shaktis. Okay, Shaktis, go do it all. I'm busy, I have to dance. I'm going to a party tonight. Gopis are waiting, So, yeah. Yes. So this verse is nice also because it's saying your effulgence is covering your face. So that means there's a person behind the effulgence. So Prabhupada obviously is going to mention this because it's so important. So he mentions this later in the Prabhupada. I want to see your face. God has a face. People who follow the Islamic faith, they don't believe God's a person. I used to preach to them in South Africa. No, God is not a person. That's considered offensive. Isn't that interesting? We consider it offensive to say God's not a person. They consider it offensive to say God is a person. That's very interesting. Isn't it? Okay. Yasya prabha prabhavado jagadanta koti. All the planets are in the Brahmajyoti. All the living entities make up the Brahmajyoti. That effulgence, which is beyond the material creation, in which all the spiritual planets reside within that Brahmajyoti. So to think that the Brahmajyoti is the ultimate, but planets are residing within it. It's a facility. And it's made up of living entities, and sometimes those living entities make a bad decision. You know the bad decision they made? They decided to move to Bangalore and take birth here. That was a bad decision. Yes. So Prabhupada describes that if Brahmana effulgence is made up of living entities. And that's why Krishna says in the Gita, there's no sun or moon in the spiritual world. You don't need it because you have Brahmana effulgence. It keeps everything. But this world, I don't know if you read this in yesterday's verses, it said, this world's like a coconut. So there's a shell around the material world. So the material world is dark, so it needs a sun and a moon to light it up. But the spiritual world doesn't need a sun and a moon. If there's a sun and a moon, that's only because Krishna wants it for his Leela. There are lots of things in the spiritual world that are maybe not necessary, but are there because it enhances Leela. Like days and night and this and that. That's under Krishna's control. But Prabhupada gives the example, this world's like a coconut, so it's dark and everything material is contained in the coconut. But in the spiritual world, it's the Brahmana effulgence. Everything exists within the Brahmana effulgence, so there's no need of sun or moon. Or electricity. Because electricity is actually the Brahmana effulgence provides all the electricity you need to run your Mac computer when you go back to Godhead, so don't worry. And to run your electric shaver and your juicer. It's funny, right? Do we need electricity in the spiritual world? Who knows the answer? I have the answer. When you go there, you'll find out.
They don't sleep there?
They don't sleep there. Yeah. If Krishna wants them to sleep, they sleep. You know, the thing is that the thing we have to understand about the spiritual world is things only happen because they give pleasure to Krishna. So if sleeping gives pleasure to Krishna, everyone will sleep. If Krishna needs day and night for his Leela, there'll be day and night. That's how it works. So you can't look at it from this perspective. If it helps the Leela that they get hungry and then they eat, and say, how do they get hungry? They don't have material bodies. No, but that's part of the Leela. Krishna wants to eat with his friends. Okay, then they eat. Krishna wants Mother Yashoda to cook for him. So, because that cooking and that feeding him is an expression of her love. So then he'll get hungry to enhance the love. Otherwise, the spiritual body doesn't need to eat or sleep.
So everything happens if Krishna desires, that only happens.
And also the devotee desires, because they know what Krishna will make him happy. You know, love means you just want to make the other person happy. You know, we have some experience of that in this world. Like we say, you know, for a parent, if their child suffers, it hurts them even more than the child. They just want their child to be happy, and so that's love. And so multiply that like millions and millions of times, and then you understand the love of the devotee. And so the devotee, they can't think of anything but Krishna. They can't think of themselves, what they want. They have no independent existence. It doesn't even, not even part of their consciousness that they want anything apart from Krishna. So everything that's happening there is arranged by Yoga Maya. So if Yoga Maya wants day, night, sleep, hungry, a moon, a sun, it's all there. You know, it's all part of the set, the movie set, to establish what's necessary to enact the Leela. And the Leelas are there for what reason? To extract more rasa, more love, more affection. Right? And here, in the material world, what do? We work. That's what we do. We work. There they play under the influence of Yoga Maya and under the influence of the Swarup Shakti, and especially the Ladini potency, which is the blissful potency, that pervades. And here we work. How many of you like to work? Raise your hand. Okay. We've got unanimous buy-in here. Right? We don't like to work. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, when you go back to Godhead, you don't have to work. So, you know, if in any way you're hesitant to go back to Godhead or you're attached to this world, just remember, when you go there, you don't have to work. And you'll be more optimistic about leaving your body. You know, because think of it, truly. If you don't like to work, then would you like to live 1,000 years? That means you'd have to work for another like 970 years or 60 years, depending on your age. Would you like to do that? You say, I'd like to live a long time. Yeah, but you'll have to work for that. But to speak of what Kali Yuga will be like in 1,000 years. But just even considering that everything would be as it is now, but it means you have to work. You just sit in front of a computer for another 950 years. And if you think about it, you'd probably rather die, right? Especially if you get so old that your body can hardly work. Why would you want to live in a body like that? So I like it when Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world you don't have to work. That was so exciting for me. I hated work. I was a hippie. Hippies didn't work. I went to school. I hardly even went to class. It was all like just have fun. And your friend can go to class and tell you what went on. So why do you have to go? And, so when Prabhupada said you don't have to work, I said, okay, this is it. This is what we're looking for. And then Prabhupada said something really interesting and funny. Today in the world, you have what is called motivational speakers, or coaches, or self-help gurus. But one of the things self-help gurus do is they help you create your dreams and fulfill your dreams, right? But here's the problem. To fulfill your dreams, you have to work really hard, and they will tell you that. They'll say, listen, if you want to do this, they use these words, you have to take massive action. What does massive action mean? I think that's a synonym for mudha, isn't it? Yeah, if you want to achieve, okay, I'll imitate. You want to achieve your goals, you have to take massive action. You know, that's how they'll talk. You know, you have to be fixed. You have to visualize what you want. Right? Massive action, yeah. You want to achieve your goals, you have to be a mudha. First class mudha, that's what you do. Work hard and don't give up, and determination. And then they'll tell you all these stories about all these people who achieved their goals because they never gave up. And then you'll see the videos on YouTube and the emotional music about the person who was born in poverty-stricken family and worked their way up, and you'll be crying, you know. But ultimately, what did they do? They worked very, very hard. And then Prabhupada said something so funny. He said, in the material world, your work is your punishment. So these self-help gurus are teaching you how to punish yourself. That's what they're doing. Okay, you can achieve all these goals. You'll get the big house, you know, on top of the mountain, or the big house at the beach, and the BMW, and this and that. But you got to punish yourself to get it. Is it worth it? Well, Prabhupada was saying, in the spiritual world, you don't work, and in the material world, your work is your punishment. Everyone's saying, oh, I like my work. Not everybody, but some people, you know, I've got my goals, I'm working hard. This is, you know, considered, you know, to be respectable. Not only respectable, it's considered to be honorable, isn't it? You work hard. So now, maybe this will, you know, what is Krishna doing? He's just playing. That's what we know. It's too hot to drink too fast. So Krishna's setting the example. He's not working hard because he's in the spiritual world. Nobody's working. But now if they don't work, how do they get their milk? No. Everybody's doing everything for Krishna's pleasure. Everything you need is supplied. How do you get it? Have you heard of Kalpa Vriksha trees? You just think, and then it comes. You get it by thinking. And that's why there's a security gate in the spiritual world. Because if you're not Krishna conscious and you go there and you get anything you want by thinking, you create disaster. Right? You let materialistic person in the spiritual world thinking, oh, look at Radharani, she's beautiful, I'd like to have her. It creates disaster, right? So when your desire is only to satisfy Krishna, then you can go to a place where all your desires can be fulfilled, because your only desire will be to please Krishna. But, you know, in the material world, you want to fulfill your desire, you're going to work really hard. And why? You're going to work really hard so you learn your lesson that it's not a good deal, you know. I have to get some little pleasure for an hour or two, I got to work all week. It's not worth it. I have to work 50 hours a week to get, you know, and then by the time the weekend comes, I'm too tired to do anything. And my whole pleasure is to get that money and buy a new pair of Nikes and walk around so people think I'm cool. Life is not meant for that. So imagine this scenario. It's like a play. The living entity wants to come into the material world, and Krishna is trying to convince him not to come. And Krishna says, but when you go to the material world, you have to work. And the living entity says, what's work? He doesn't know. And then Krishna says, but at the end of the week you have recreation. And he says, what's recreation? And Krishna says, recreation is how you recuperate from the pain of work, so that you can start working 2 days later again and have enough energy to tolerate it. So he's trying to think, work, recreation. There's no experience of it. You can't understand it. He said, what's recreation? Oh, like, you know, they have this little ball, and they knock this little ball in the hole. They call that fun. And the living entity is trying to figure out how that's fun, knocking a ball in the hole. That's considered fun. Or knocking a ball back and forth over a net. Ping pong, tennis, badminton. And he's trying to think, over, Could you see the play? And he's like, Krishna's saying, well, they knock a ball like this and back and forth. And they're both going like this. And that's fun. He's going, that's fun? What's fun about that? It wouldn't register from the Anandamaya platform. That wouldn't register as fun. What we register as fun wouldn't register there as fun. Right? You understand? So if we understand the Anandamaya nature of the spiritual world, then naturally we'll become detached. Naturally we'll understand, I'm working like a mudha just to get a little pleasure. It's not worth it. I should simplify my life and dedicate my life solely to Krishna consciousness. Right? And some people are really fortunate when they're young, they can understand that. And they become brahmacharis. And they don't get entangled because they understand this clearly and they want that. And if you get married, still you live in that atmosphere, you simplify your life. Okay, now we go to mantra 16. Any questions so far? So, mantra 16, Puncham. Yes.
Maharaj, a materialist cannot enter the spiritual world because then he would want to enjoy things there. So then...
You have the word party pooper. You have that word, and you understand that word party pooper?
Somewhat.
So, party pooper, you're having a party and somebody comes and it just ruins everything. Just that one person that's just obnoxious and annoying and just makes everyone miserable, that's called a party pooper. So a conditioned soul can't go into the spiritual world because they would be a party pooper. They would ruin everything. So the spiritual world is protected. And sometimes it's funny, but sometimes we think, I hope so-and-so Prabhu doesn't go to the spiritual world because if he's there, I don't want to go there. So it's kind of the idea. Of course, when he gets there, he'll be different, so you don't have to worry. But if he was if this devotee, that you find a problem was in the spiritual world creating problems, you will want to go there. So Krishna has made everything very pure there, so he won't let anybody in who's not pure. No party poopers allowed. Yes?
So, Maharaj, nothing is impossible for Krishna. So then, why isn't he just giving purification to everyone? Desire is other thing, but why isn't he just purifying everyone? There's nothing is
Because they don't want it. That's why. They don't want it.
Who?
Everybody. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to be purified. Excuse me, sir, would you like to be purified? What does purified mean? It means, well, you'll give up your desire to drink coffee and tea and enjoy with your wife and work hard to get ahead and have a bigger television, a newer phone, a better computer, a better car, a better house. You won't have any of those desires. No, sir, thank you. I don't want to be purified. I want to be contaminated.
Why isn't he changing the desire altogether?
Why?
Desire.
How? What?
Why is Krishna not changing the
Oh,
desire?
because we don't want it. Because we don't want it. We don't want it. He's not going to give us something we don't want. He only gives, Ye dhamam prapajjante. Krishna says, I reciprocate with what you want. He says, I don't reciprocate. He doesn't say, I reciprocate with what you don't want. Okay, whatever you don't want, I'll give you. No. Whatever you want, I'll give you. And you don't want to go back to Godhead, so I gave you the material world. So, you know the story. You must have heard this story. Narada Muni went to Narayan and asked the same question, why don't you liberate everybody? I mean, you could do it. It's the exact same question. And Krishna gave the same answer I gave. He said, because they don't want to go. You know the story? Yeah, so, and Narada Muni didn't believe, just like you're not believing or doubting. or questioning Narada Muni, said, "How is that possible? I don't believe it." And he said, "Well, I can prove it to you. I will give you the blessing that you can find any devotee and offer them the benediction that right now they could go back to Godhead." So he went to a devotee, and the devotee said, "Thank you, but my daughter's getting married. Can you come back next week? I just want to see the marriage." And then Narada Muni came back. His next week was like 9 months later, and he said, "Well, it's time to go." And he said, "Well, my daughter's having a baby. It's my first grandchild. Could you come in a week after?" And this went on and on until he became an old man. So then Narada Muni saw that even the devotee didn't want to go back to God. So that's why Krishna doesn't change desire. He won't interfere. You could say that Mahaprabhu is the closest thing to interfering, because the holy name does interfere, but you at least have to chant it. Right?
Hearing it will help.
What?
Hearing also it will help.
But you have to hear. You have to want to hear.
Well, they are going for this Nagar and people they are hearing.
Yeah, we're interfering, but still ultimately, we can only interfere so much. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Don't disturb the minds of the fruitive workers." And Prabhupada says, the devotees interfere. They do what Krishna doesn't do. But Mahaprabhu interferes. And Prabhupada said, devotees know, even though Krishna says don't interfere, they know that Krishna wants them to interfere. But Krishna's position is, I don't interfere. But our position is we can interfere. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I just reciprocate. But you, as a devotee, you can interfere. You can try to force them against their will to be Krishna conscious. Krishna won't do that. But you could say, in the form of Mahaprabhu, he's doing it. But still, you have to, take advantage of it. So still you have to have some desire. But, by the mercy of a pure devotee, we're implanting desire in people's hearts. But ultimately, Krishna is never going to make it cheap. You always have to pay for it. Here's the credit card. I'll put credit on it for you, but you have to go out in the store and buy it. So he's doing everything, but you have to make some effort. Correct?
If they hear once, like we go back, so next birth, we get.
Yeah. It can be a gradual process. They hear the holy name, hear something, they benefit. Slowly. It's okay. You want Krishna to change everyone's desire? Like Vasudeva Datta, I'll take all the sins. Vasudeva Datta, I'll take all the sins. Sometimes that's there. Krishna will, sometimes he'll do it because the devotee asks him to do it. But he's not going to interfere unless the devotee presses him. Then he might do it. But conditioned soul is very conditioned. So, Manusyanam Sahasreshu. Mahaprabhu's mercy can do anything. Nityananda Prabhu's mercy can do anything. So, more and more people are becoming Krishna conscious. But the philosophy is also that, as you know, Prabhupada said many times, God is not cheap. Because if he's cheap, then we take everything for granted. So he wants us to work, wants us to pay. If Krishna were cheap, then you might not be serious about Krishna consciousness. You might take it for granted, as we do with anything cheap. But if something's expensive, we take care of it, right? This was the only copy of this book on the planet, and there's never going to be another copy. I definitely would take care of it. If there are 10 million copies on the planet, I may just misplace this, thinking, well, it's not, there's 10 million copies, it's not so rare. So anything which is rare, we take care of. So Krishna makes it a little rare to become a pure devotee. And so that we don't take it cheaply, take it for granted, and we're serious. But you, as a preacher, you can do your utmost to interfere with people's desire, to try to convince them to be Krishna conscious. right? Like when we would inspire the devotees for book distribution, we would often say that you're going to go out and distribute so many books today, and not one of those people woke up thinking, today I want to get a copy of Bhagavad Gita, but they're going to get one from you. That's interfering with their material life. That's what we do. We're expert at interfering. So let's read this verse. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotee, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. So again, this is so interesting. You know, the Upanishads will be seen by many as impersonal, and here, remove your effulgence so I can see your face. That's pretty personal, right? Yeah. So in this verse, the devotee, did you notice in the devotee, he's describing all these qualities of Krishna. That's how he's approaching him in the verse. I don't know if you notice that. So what's he calling Krishna? You're the primary philosopher, you're the regulating principle, you're the destination of pure devotees, you're the well-wisher of the Prajapatis. So he's glorifying Krishna. Those beginning words, right? Punchame Karshi, maintainer, primeval philosopher, Yama, the regulating principle, Surya, the destination of the pure devotees, Prajapatya, the well-wisher of the Prajapatis, like that. So, did you notice that when you read it? It was a glorification. So here Prabhupada says something I wanted to read, and just because it's interesting, I'm sure you've read this, but we can go over this. Prabhupada's defining the word Bhagavan, and generally we say Bhaga means opulence and Van means one who possesses. So it's standard definition, right? Bhagavan. One who possesses 6 opulences. But here Prabhupada gives a different definition. This is in the 4th paragraph. Go to the 4th paragraph and you go to the 3rd sentence. The first syllable of the word Bhagavan, Bha, has 2 meanings. The first is one who fully maintains, and the second is guardian. So he's not defining it in the other way, because you can divide Sanskrit words differently. So the other way is Bhagavan, opulence, one who has. But here, it's not Bhaga, it's Ba. It's dividing the word. Ba has 2 meanings. The first one is he who fully maintains. The second is guardian. The second syllable, Ga, means guide, leader, or creator. The syllable Van indicates that every being lives in him, and that he also lives in every being. No chanting of Hare Krishna, that's a sin. If your ringtone is not kirtan, that's a sin. It's the 11th offense. To have a ringtone that doesn't chant Hare Krishna. It's an offense to the holy name. Did you know that? Like I always say, if you leave your phone on and you're not hearing it rings, at least it should be the Maha Mantra. So then we'll feel blissful when your phone goes off. So Ga means guide, leader, or creator, and the syllable Van indicates every being lives in him, and that he also lives in every being. In other words, the transcendental sound Bhagavan represents infinite knowledge, potency, energy, opulence, strength, and influence, all without a tinge of material inebriety. So Bhagavan Ba is the maintainer, the guardian. Ga, the guide, the leader, creator. So the maintainer, the guardian, the guide, the creator, and everyone lives in him. So, Yeah, so here's an important point. We go to the next paragraph. I could speak on this point for the next 3 months. The devotees of the Lord see the Lord eye to eye. This is the second sentence in the next paragraph. The devotees of the Lord see the Lord eye to eye by his causeless mercy. Thus the Lord helps his devotees reach the supermost spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan. Being a creator, he can bestow all necessary qualifications upon his devotee so they can ultimately reach him. So, what's going on in this verse is, and the next verse is this, the devotee is asking Krishna for mercy. And because we can't see Krishna unless he agrees, right? So if you want to see Krishna, then naturally you have to ask for mercy. Because otherwise, the only way you can see Krishna is Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochana. You have to get prema. So before you hit the stage of prema and you want to see Krishna, it's only going to happen through your prayers. And if he answers your prayers, he gives you mercy. So the idea here, which we can expand upon this idea and say anything that you want to achieve in Krishna consciousness that you don't feel qualified but you desire strongly to achieve, then you pray for that. That's all you can do. You could strive, but if you're not qualified, all you can do is pray. And that sometimes we see in the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's praying not for something to happen now, but for someday to happen, because he knows he's not qualified now. So, if you're praying for now, there should be some qualification or some intense need in your service to have that what you're praying for. But if you're praying for something that's beyond your qualification, then you pray, Kabe haba bolo se jinama, when will that day come when I can see you, or I can chant purely, right? So that's a deserved desire. Prabhupada said, first deserve before you pray for it. But sometimes we want to pray for something we don't deserve, and so then we're praying, when will that day be mine? I'm looking forward to it. And that's nice, because it puts you on the track of this is where I want to go. So you're praying, Krishna, when, someday will I chant the holy name purely. I know today my rounds were not so good, but when will that day come? I'm hoping, praying that someday it will come. So that's the mood of the devotee. So that way you can pray for things that you may be a little beyond your adhikari, your qualification, but that are important for you, that you really want, but you're not really qualified. Krishna, when will that day come? And those things that we need immediately for our service, we can pray. Krishna, please give me this intelligence, inspiration, power, strength, detachment, whatever it is I need. And so the idea of prayer is that in your life, you're trying to achieve something and you hit a wall. And you've tried and tried and tried, and you can't get to that level that you want to be at and you need to be at. Right? You ever have that experience? You're trying, and your life is like, there's this wall there. Trying to get beyond this wall. I keep running into this wall. How do I get beyond the wall? It's through prayer. Krishna, there's a wall there. I tried everything, I can't get beyond it. I pray to you, please. Jagannath ki jai. Hare Krishna. I really need this, I really want this. Somehow or other, I can't seem to achieve it. Prayer is that vehicle that could knock that wall down. Krishna could say, okay, I'm compassionate upon you, I'll knock the wall down. Then you get that needed detachment or that realization or that strength or whatever it is you need for your service. And why are you praying? What's the motive? What's the reason? So you'll become advanced, so people will think you're an advanced devotee and bathe your feet when you come in the temple? Of course not. You're praying because you want to please Krishna, right? It's your only motive in your prayer. Now Krishna sees that. Okay. If you're praying for some other reason, why would he give it to you? Okay, let's go to the last 3 sentences of the last paragraph, because it's elaborating on this point. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge within their hearts. And thus, out of his special favor, he dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. The speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they more or less depend on their own strength, as stated in the Katha Upanishad. The Lord can be known only by those whom he favors and not by anyone else. Special favors are bestowed upon his pure devotees only. Sri Isopanisad thus points to the favor of the Lord, which is beyond the purview of the Brahmajoti. So this is nice, a little sequel to just what I said. Then if you're a jnani or a yogi, how are you going to get to your realization? You're going to have to do it on your own. And if you're a devotee, of course the yogis and jnanis, Jiva Goswami says that nothing can happen without Krishna's mercy. So they do bhakti to get Krishna's mercy. So they can achieve their impersonal or paramatma realization. But here, Prabhupada's saying, the devotee is always, Krishna is always helping the devotee by giving them realization. Right? We've all had so many realizations. Speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they more or less depend on their own strength. So it's basically that process of jnana and yoga is you have to do it yourself. But the process, the Dhammi Buddha Yogam Tam, the process of bhakti is really Krishna's doing it. So in answer to Sita Langi's question, you don't, in a sense, the answer is he is doing it. He is changing our desires in proportion to our service, or maybe not in proportion, in greater proportion. He is enlightening us from within. That's the process. That's how we become Krishna conscious. That's why it's easy. You know, in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada was describing hearing. He said, if you hear about Krishna, Krishna is pleased. If Krishna is pleased, he enlightens you from within. If he enlightens you from within, it's very easy to be Krishna conscious because all this realization and intelligence is coming to you. It's just like being given to you, so you do the right thing. And we can understand if it's not being given to us, how could we stay in Krishna consciousness? We would leave, right? Because our own intelligence is not very strong. But when Krishna gives us intelligence, he's saying, yeah, go this way, don't go that way. And so we make the right choices. So we're very dependent on Krishna giving us intelligence. Last night we were giving a Bhagavad Gita class, and Prabhupada saying, you know, a devotee is very careful to keep himself in Krishna consciousness. So then Krishna can, if I keep myself in a healthy state of Krishna consciousness, then I become a conduit for Krishna to give me realization. And if I deviate, then the realizations stop. The realizations stop. Realizations are like these GPS, how I get out of the jungle of material existence. So we're in this jungle of material existence. If I don't get the GPS directions, I can't get out. And so realizations are your GPS directions. Without realizations, we're just stuck. We're stuck in the forest. We won't know where to go. Right? You agree? Yes? Raise your hand if you're awake. All right. Now, well, raise your hand if you're breathing. That's probably a better question. Okay, we have a few dead people here. Hare Krishna. Any questions so far? Turn to the person next to you and say, Prabhu, Mataji, are you awake and are you breathing? I want to confirm that before we go on. That you're still alive. Yes, the question.
Praying according to what you deserve. It is upsetting to know that we cannot pray for something that we desire but we don't deserve right now.
What, you want to see Krishna? When will that day be mine, Krishna, when I see you? You can pray to Krishna to reveal himself to you in ways which are suitable to your level of Krishna consciousness. You say, Krishna, I want to see you. But that's not going to happen until you have prema. But Krishna, I want to show me that you exist. You can show me in other ways. Through the deity, show me you're there in the deity, show me you're there in the holy name. Prabhupada said, you can see Krishna on the pages of Bhagavatam. Show me how you're on the pages of the Bhagavatam. That we can pray.
We pray for prema.
When, oh when will that day be mine? Yeah. If you pray for prema, I would say they're preliminary prayers. When please help me give up the thing, give up what is an obstacle to prema. Right? Because praying for prema, you're praying for prema and Krishna's laughing at you. So you're praying for prema. Why did you watch that movie last night? There's like a disconnect here. Cognitive dissonance. You know. Before you pray for prema, pray for the Shakti to not watch movies anymore. That's first deserve, then desire. That's what it means, right? Otherwise, it's artificial. It's not according to our level. And we've been talking about that in evening classes. You can't act on a level you're not on. You can't think you're on another level or pray like you're on another level. It's not practical.
And a devotee will never consider himself deserved for anything. So how to know that, okay, we deserve this and now this is my level?
Because because we're qualified for a level of mercy and realization where we are right now. And I would say even more so, look at what your obstacles are right now and pray for overcoming them rather than pray for prema. So that will be the most realistic thing for you, and then you won't need the question of knowing what to pray for. There's a big boulder in front of me and I can't go anywhere. Pray, Krishna, could you move the boulder? That's like the obvious problem. I'm greedy, I'm lusty, I'm envious. Why don't I pray for that? Remove that before I pray for prema, because I'm not going to get prema with that there. Right? And so that's real. Being real is very important. And so you know what your anarthas are, so pray to overcome them. Because if you overcome them, then you can get prema more quickly. What does it mean to pray for prema? It's not so realistic for us. But praying to overcome anarthas, that's realistic. Right? Like right now, think of your top 3 biggest anarthas, the top 3 obstacles to bhakti. The 3 biggest things that are getting in the way between your relationship and Krishna. Think of them, what they are. Is it pride? Probably. Is it greed? Probably. Is it lust? Probably. So shouldn't we pray to overcome those things? Rather than pray for prema? It's okay to want prema, but then you have to put your prayers into a practical context. So praying to overcome those anarthas is praying for prema. It's just practical and it's realistic according to your qualification. Yes?
You can pray for higher taste.
Yeah,
definitely. Or lower
we can pray for a higher taste, but if you chant your rounds laying down in your bed and you're praying for a higher taste, it's a paradox. You have to... your prayer should be aligned with your efforts. I always joke, the devotee's lying in bed, the alarm goes off at 4 o'clock, he wants to go to Mangalarti, you can say, Krishna, if you want me to go to Mangalarti, shake the bed so I fall out. It's not like that. You make the effort, okay, I'm going to try to get up, Krishna, please help me. And so you get up, and, please help me so after I brush my teeth, I don't feel like going back to sleep, You pray like that. But you're making the effort. So then Krishna hears the prayer because you're making the effort. But if you just want to sit back and do nothing and pray that everything happens, the chances of Krishna reciprocating with that prayer are much lower, if not 0. because you're not doing anything. And on the other hand, Krishna sees your effort. So even if you don't pray, because he sees your effort, he's going to reciprocate. But if you pray, it's more powerful. And of the two, I would say make the effort. If you don't feel like praying, if it's a choice between effort and prayer, make the effort, not the prayer. But better you make both. I mean, imagine you are Krishna, and your devotees are praying, Krishna, give me a taste, and you don't even pick up your bead bag. You chant one mantra and you put your bead bag down, and you're praying, and Krishna's just like looking at you thinking, what is wrong with this person? He's praying for a taste. You know that joke? This person's praying, oh God, please help me win the lottery. And then he hears a voice from heaven. God says, buy a lottery ticket. It's just like that. We're praying, and we even buy a lottery ticket. Isn't it? Yes? So that's exactly what I'm saying. You're going to pray to win the lottery, at least buy the lottery ticket. Maybe you can make a t-shirt like that. If you're going to pray to win the lottery, at least buy a lottery ticket. At least, do something. Right? Hare Krishna. Isn't that funny? Krishna, get me up for Mangalarti. At least get out of bed. Get on your feet. I'm not going to throw the bed over. I'm not going to have an earthquake every morning at 4 o'clock. You're going to have to do it yourself. Right?
Krishna doesn't interfere with our desire. But
If you're really sincere, he will interfere. He'll protect you. If you're about to do something stupid, he might make you trip on a crack on the street and you fall over and you can never do it. He may interfere if you're really sincere. I've seen Krishna interfere in my life in which I was about to do things, even in devotional service, which would have probably caused me problems. It wasn't like I was running after some temptation, but I've seen that. Or sometimes Krishna just creates a miserable situation for me just to teach me something. So if we're sincere, yeah, he will, but it's because you want it, ultimately.
whatever we desire, and then Krishna guarantees to that.
Yeah, and Krishna knows what you desire, but sometimes your desire is weak, but he knows, in your heart you want it, so he can make an arrangement to make sure that you get it. I was supposed to take sannyas in 1979, but in retrospect, I don't think at the age of 29 I was really qualified for sannyas. And most of the devotees who took sannyas in their 20s couldn't maintain it, because generally you take sannyas when you're older. So that year in Mayapur, this was 1979, so in 1978, several of our sannyasis had trouble. And so the GBC decided in 1979 they would not give anyone sannyas. They wanted to think about it a little more, about the future of sannyas. And that was the year I came to take sannyas. So when that happened, I immediately thought, Krishna's protecting me. I'm too young. So sometimes he'll do that. He'll see, okay, this will be better for you. And he just arranges it. So it was so obvious to me when that happened. There was no doubt in my mind. It's like, wow, Krishna, you saved me. Because I don't know, if I, in retrospect, I thought, it's going to be hard at 29 to do this the rest of my life. I don't know if I have those kinds of samskars. So things like that happen.
When they ask that, Krishna is all powerful, is completely independent. So he can interfere with our desire. Why?
Krishna is all powerful and and he's independent and he can interfere with our desire. That's true. So why doesn't he? Because it's not good for us. Because, okay, I bring you a girl and she doesn't really want to marry you. And I say, well, why don't we interfere with her desire? Give her some drug or something to make her fall in love with you. So, every day you have to give her this drug. Otherwise, she'll run away from you. She'll never marry you. It's like, do you want that? And I go, here's another girl that actually likes you, who wants to marry you. Which girl do you want? So, who does Krishna want? The one who actually loves him, or the one he has to force to love him? And when you force people, like with children, you try to force them to do something, eat this sabji. They don't like it. It's just, you have to force them every day. And at a certain point, you just get frustrated. Okay, eat whatever you want. It's Krishna he relishes rasa, the rasa of love and affection. So he's got millions of devotees who love him. He doesn't need to force people to love him who don't love him. Right? There's no rasa there. So he's doing everything he can to get us to love him. But that's instructing us, that's sending the pure devotee, that's performing leela, giving us the holy name. So the answer to your question is, he's interfering as far as he can interfere. Mahaprabhu comes, he's doing everything, but he can only go so far because he wants us to love him. He doesn't want a relationship with someone who doesn't want a relationship with him.
How to understand that? How he's all merciful, he's seeing that all the living in suffering here in this world.
He's seeing that they're suffering, therefore he came and gave the holy name. Okay, here it is. Take it. Okay, I can't interfere with your independence. But what I can do is make the price cheaper. I can bring the cost down. So you don't have to do all this tapasya. All you have to do is chant Hare Krishna. That's the best I can do. Okay, you can't afford a diamond. Okay, instead of the diamond costing 3 lakhs, we'll bring it down to 10,000 rupees. That's the best I can do. Right? I'm taking the loss here, but I know you want the diamond. But you have to come up with 10,000 rupees. So it's something like that. Okay, you don't have to do austerity. You don't have to be initiated. You don't have to be born in a family of Brahmins. You can be born in a Malecha family. You don't have to have any qualification, but you have to chant. That's the best I can do. I can't do better than that. I can't chant for you. Right? So that's as far as Krishna can interfere. He can't interfere beyond that. Prabhu, I'm behind on my rounds. Can I give you my beads? Can you chant my rounds for me? Give me my beads back tonight. It doesn't work that way, although I would imagine maybe sometimes married couples might think, Prabhu, could you chant the rounds for me? I'm not feeling well today. No, it doesn't work that way. Just like I can't do push-ups for you. You're not going to get big muscles if I do push-ups for you. I'm praying for you. I'm doing push-ups in your name. That's fine. But you're still flabby muscles, flabby muscles will stay flabby because you have to do your push-ups. Right? So Krishna's reduced the price. It can't get any cheaper, but you have to go there and get your 10,000 rupees and buy it. Does that make sense? So in that sense, he has interfered as much as he can. Okay, we're just going to give it out. No qualification. The price is as low as it'll go. 16 rounds and go back to God. Can't make it any cheaper than that. 16 rounds, 4 regs, go back to Godhead. That's the discount. Prabhu, can you give it to me cheaper? No. That's the discount. That's as cheap as it gets. You don't have to meditate for 100,000 years. Just 16 months, only 2 hours a day. Oh, can't you make it 8? What about 4? What about 3 principles? That's our disease. Why do I even have to do anything? Krishna could give me love. Why can't he just give me love, You lazy bum. He's not going to do that. He wants you to work. Right? Your father wouldn't give you something that valuable that easily, would he? No. So why would Krishna? It's okay? So let's go to the next verse. Vayoranimam litam atedam vajmantam shariram om kada smara kritam smara kritam smara kritam smara krito smara kritam smara It's the second to last verse, right? Verse 17. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I've done for you. So he's praying. He wants to go back to Godhead. Like, remove all my sins, remember what I've done, and get me out of here. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, commentary here, he says, this prayer is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It's not pure. And why is it not pure? Because he's praying to go back to Godhead. So this is a very interesting topic, because naturally the question is, should I pray to go back to Godhead? Should I desire to go back to Godhead? Or should I just desire to serve Krishna and whatever he wants, heaven, hell, back to Godhead, I just accept? And the answer is yes, and the answer is no. And when I come back next year, I will explain it. Now you're awake, right? Because you want me to explain it. So, this is interesting because there are actually two different answers. Because, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, it's Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It's not pure. It's mixed with the desire for liberation. And the desire for liberation is not a pure desire. It isn't. It's not pure bhakti. But it's certainly a better desire than the desire to merge in Brahman or the desire to enjoy the material world. Isn't it? That's a better desire, to want to go back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says we should want to go back to Godhead. We should be enamored by the descriptions of the spiritual world and want to go there. So then how could I say, or how could Bhaktivinoda Thakur say that this prayer is wrong, or that it's bad to pray to go back to Godhead? When Prabhupada is saying, you should want to go back to Godhead. Well, who is the you that should want to? That's someone who's who's practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, or even Raganuga Bhakti. But let's say Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, that person should want to go back to Godhead. That's a good desire for that person. Because if you want to go back to Godhead, there your mind is focused on wanting to go back to Godhead. That will help you in your bhakti. Right? So one devotee asked Prabhupada this very question. Should I desire to go back to Godhead, or should I just desire whatever Krishna wants? And Prabhupada said, you should desire to go back to Godhead. Because Prabhupada knew, if that person comes back in the material world, there's no saying how they'll end up in Krishna consciousness. Better get them back to Godhead. Right? Oh, whatever you want, Krishna, heaven or hell, but it's not your realization. That's not where you're at. So then to pray for that's artificial. It's not going to help you. Because if you pray like that, whatever you want, Krishna, and then Krishna sends you to hell to preach, and then you go down to hell and meet some beautiful girl, and it's all over. Right? The subterranean heavenly planets, which are considered hellish planets. But what are those planets that are like nicer than heaven, but they're considered hellish? What's the subterranean heaven? What's the name? So these are hellish planets, but they're nicer than heaven. Oh, Krishna, whatever you want, I'll go to heaven or hell to preach. And then he says, go to heaven to preach, or go to these subterranean heavenly planets.
Investment.
Bilba
Swarga.
Bilba Swarga. I'll go to Bilba Swarga. And then you go meet some beautiful woman, and that's the end of your Krishna consciousness. Right? So, if one is not qualified and prays for something they're not qualified, it's not good, because it's not real. So Prabhupada told this devotee, yes, you should desire to go back to Godhead, because according to his level of Krishna consciousness, that would be the best thing for him. That would help him. That will help him get out of the material world. But then we hear pure devotees, it's in the Nectar of Devotion, pure devotees do not desire liberation, and they consider the desire for liberation sense gratification. Pure devotees think that way, so because they think that way, they don't desire. They'll never desire to go back to Godhead. Why? Because they're already with Krishna. Why would they desire it? They're seeing Krishna every moment. They're already back to Godhead, so why would they pray to go back to Godhead? They'll pray Krishna whatever you want. And they'll go wherever Krishna wants them, and they'll be Krishna conscious. That's natural. That's naturally how they would pray. That's their realization. So that's why the answer is yes and no, according to your realization. So I think for most younger devotees, the answer is yes, you should want to go back to Godhead. And most mature devotees, the answer is whatever Krishna wants. That's naturally how you feel. Of course, going back to Godhead's nice if that's what Krishna wants, but if not, we'll preach. Whatever. But desiring whatever Krishna wants when you don't have that realization is not healthy. It could get you into trouble. And it's better to desire to get out of the material world. Is that okay? Yes.
Whatever we are practicing, as per our realization, only pure devotee can have the desire that not to whatever the Krishna provides.
Yes. Yes,
We are
but
at a very initial level. But superficially we impose that I have the bhakti and na dhanam, and so we are not desiring anything. So it's totally different.
yeah.
Very,
But
very wide gap. So it's not pure devotee level. But our realization is nowhere. But these things we have imposed in our mind.
yeah.
Like, I should not assume that.
Well,
How is it related?
there's two things. One, there's a broader definition of pure devotee. Pure devotee doesn't just mean prema. So, we have to learn what is the highest standard. We have to. We have to know what is pure devotional service because we're trying to achieve that. So that's always going to be there. There's always going to be najanam, najanam, that's the standard. But then there's us and our standard. And so for us, nadanam, najanam, nasundarin, or for many of us, is this is what I should strive for. This is the goal. But I have to act according to my level. And so if I act nadanam, najanam, nasundarin, next year I may end up working hard like an ass to get money, finding a beautiful girl to marry, and making an effort to become famous as a famous businessman. That's the problem. You understand? So in the name of I don't want women, wealth, and fame, I may actually want it. And so if I want it, then I have to engage it in a way that it doesn't destroy me. So if I say the goal is I don't want women, wealth, and fame, but I know due to my conditioning I actually want them, okay, then get married, make money, use it for Krishna, and become a famous devotee so you can convince other people. So you have influence, I like fame. All right, I'll become famous so I can influence people. So I use those desires in Krishna's service because I'm not free from them. But I know the goal is to become free from them. So although I know it, it's not where my heart is, so I have to engage according to where I'm at to purify myself so that someday, after I become successful and get all the fame and the money and the beautiful woman, I realize these things really don't give satisfaction. They don't give happiness. And I purify myself. And then when I say nadanam, najanam, nasundarim, I really feel it. That's the process. So if you don't really feel it, then you can't artificially practice it.
You can pray Krishna, asking all these things.
Yes, you can pray. Pray. There's a philosopher who said, you can have your head in the clouds if you have your feet on the ground. So yeah, you can pray for all these high things, but you have to have your feet on the ground to know where you're at right now. It's like I'm 69 years old, and I can't dance like I did when I was 25. I don't have the stamina, energy in my body. Maybe if I exercise enough I can, but generally I can't. And sometimes if I try to, then I'll try to dance for half an hour in the kirtan, and all the 25-year-old men, they'll go out in Sankirtan all day, but I'll come home and I'll be exhausted. Right? So I have to act according to the reality that I exist in. Right? So although I would like to dance for half an hour and go on book distribution all day like a 25-year-old man, the reality is I can't. The body doesn't have that endurance anymore. So it's something like that. I want Nadanam Najanam Nasundaram, but I'm not there yet, and so I have to act according to where I'm at, while I pray someday to get there. And that's true for so many things in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, we shouldn't lament that we don't have it. We should just accept that this is where I'm at, and then deal with where I'm at in a way that I become purified. Because if I just lament I don't have it, I may do nothing. Oh, I want women, wealth, and money. What's the use of going on in Krishna consciousness? This is not pure bhakti. No, I engage women, men, and money in Krishna service, and I become purified of that desire. And so then I'm working towards Nadanam Najanam Nasundaram. That's the idea. That makes sense? We should never give up the desire for the highest stages of bhakti. But it has to be more when will that day become? Not that I pray like I can achieve it tomorrow. And Krishna, why aren't you giving it to me? What's wrong with you? I deserve it. No, I don't deserve it. And I know I don't deserve it. So I have to pray, someday this is what I want. By your mercy. And by your mercy, you're going to help me get closer to that. So, how can I today get closer to Nadanam Najanam Nasundaram? That's what we want to figure out. Right? Rather than think I can get it, how can I get closer to it? What can I do to get closer to that? That's a smart prayer. Krishna, reveal to me how I can get closer to this, how I can give up these desires. What can I do today? That's a better prayer than please give it to me, which I don't deserve. So why pray for what you don't deserve? Why should pray for what's achievable? That's more practical, right? Hare Krishna. Other question?
Yeah, is it good that we should
Say that again, I couldn't hear.
here it's in the prayer is telling that please remember all that I have done for you.
Yeah.
It is good to tell that whatever
Well, he's saying, Krishna, I want to go back to Godhead, and don't forget, I did open this temple, and I did distribute.
he knows all things.
Yeah, because it's Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It's not pure, so But at the same time, when you read this verse, you realize this is very human. It's very normal, because if you go outside of ISKCON and take the massive population, and there's people who are whose goal is to become liberated in bhakti, this is a common way they would pray. Don't forget. There's this funny story. This man goes to church. He gives donation in church, $5, right? And then he dies. And then he goes to heaven to meet God. And in heaven there are angels, and there are angels like check your passport and so forth. So they, he's coming into heaven, and they say, wait a minute. It's like going through immigration, wait a minute. And he said, what do you mean, wait a minute? I gave $5 in church, I should be allowed into heaven. He said, but your name's not in the book. So he went to God, and he spoke to God. And then God told the angel to tell him. This is what the angel said. He said, God told me to give you your $5 back and tell you to go to hell. So, this is the mood. Wait a minute, I gave $5. I should be able to go back to Godhead. Okay, here's your $5 back. You can go to hell. You're not qualified to be here. So that's the normal way people think, like my dear Lord, and glorify the Lord. And don't forget, I gave you $5 in church, so can you get me back to Godhead? But the point is, for a devotee, Devotees' mood is they want to please Krishna. They want to do what pleases Krishna, and they're not trying to deal with Krishna to here, look at the Krishna. I'll distribute. If you let me back to Godhead, I'll open a temple for you. It's not like that. They want to love him. They want to please their guru. So it was a whole different mood. But in a very neophyte state, Prabhupada said it's good to want to go back to Godhead because it detaches you. And it detaches you a lot on the basis of jnana. The world is bad and I don't like it. But jnana, it's not the highest because detachment on the basis of bhakti is higher. But in the beginning, you need a lot of jnana because we're so attracted to the material world. You need the jnana that this is not going to make you happy. Because in our mind, we're thinking it will make me happy. Oh, look at this beautiful man, this beautiful woman, this is, I could have a nice family, nice children, nice house. So the jnana is, okay, that's okay, but that is not ultimately going to satisfy you. That's where jnana comes in. So if I have that jnana, no, this is not going to satisfy me, only Krishna will satisfy me, that becomes an impetus to want to get out of this world. So that's good at a certain level. But when you go higher, the level is, I just want to please Krishna. Right? But it has to be real. It can't be artificial. And if I don't have that desire, yes, I can pray for that desire. Please, Krishna, I know I want to get out of this world because I don't want to suffer anymore. Please help me. Give me the desire to just want to serve you. But I don't have it now, so I have to act according to where I'm at. And so this is very important. And we've been talking about this several nights. Several of the nighttime classes. You have to realize where you're at and act accordingly. Otherwise, like me, I'll dance for a half hour in the kirtan, and then you'll see me limping out of the temple. My feet couldn't handle it, my legs couldn't handle it, and I have to go to sleep. Dance for 5 minutes, then the next day 10, and the next, work your way up gradually. It's so funny because we have these old videos of us when we were young, and it shows us doing kirtan, and we're all dancing like non-stop. And now it's hard to do that. It's harder to do that now. Maybe if I ran every day of my life, for the last 50 years, I could do it. But the younger bodies have lots of energy, and so you have to act accordingly, right? So we have 10 minutes, and the last verse is very similar to this verse. Prabhupada says, the devotee is praying, but he also says, when the devotee is dying, he remembers all his activities. So why is he praying to remember, Krishna, please remember what I've done? Because I've done so many bad things. It's like, don't remember those bad things. Because at the time of death, your whole life goes. So this prayer is at the time of death. So that's why he's praying, please remember what I've done. One of the reasons, because it's kind of like saying, please forget all my sins that I've committed and remember all my devotional and spiritual activities. Because if you remember all my sins, then it's not good. And if you could eradicate my sins, that would be really good. So here's a nice statement that will help add to what we're discussing. This is beautiful. Even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. So you don't even have to recite this prayer because we have faith that Krishna will remember what we've done. And one time the devotee said, but Prabhupada, if I die and then it's a traumatic experience, I may not remember Krishna. And Prabhupada said, you serve Krishna. Krishna will remember you. And this morning I was listening to a lecture of Prabhupada, and he said, you can't just die thinking of Krishna like that. You have to practice your whole life. He said, so if you do bhakti, you're very accustomed to thinking of Krishna. But if by chance, Krishna Turiya Balavankachapancharantam, if you're, Kapabata Pita, you choke, Krishna will remember you. The sentiment is, let me die now, because who knows what will happen when I die. But here Prabhupada's giving us some what's the word I'm looking for? Some solace. Oh, you forget Krishna, he'll remember you if you've done all this service. So that's nice, right? And then Prabhupada, to give more solace, quotes 930 that even if you commit some sin, that Krishna will forgive you because you're determined to be a devotee. So you might have a doubt. Krishna will remember me, but what if I've committed some abomination? No, that's forgiven. If you're fixed in bhakti, that will be forgiven. So Prabhupada throws that in just to underscore that point. And then Prabhupada again quotes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur just to make the point clear that sometimes a devotee may slip, but if he's determined to be Krishna conscious, then Krishna accepts him as a sadhu. And Prabhupada describes the processes of devotional service, the 9 processes. It's a long purport. And then and the devotees who attain perfection by following those processes. Who knows? Who can recite? Who can recite? Should we go? Hearing? Who was hearing? Who was, the 9 processes are exemplified, like perfected by one devotee. So it's Parikshit Maharaj who perfected his life by hearing, right? And who perfected their life by glorifying? Shukadev. And then who perfected their life by praying? Akrura. And then who perfected their life by remembering? Prahlad. And by worshipping? Prithu. And by serving the lotus feet? Lakshmi. Personal service? Hanuman. Friendship? And surrendering everything. So these are examples of how devotees perfected their life by one of the 9 processes. But it shows the power of the process, but Prabhupada never said just focus on one process. He gave us the process of chanting. So we have to do that. But the point is, if you're attracted to these other processes, and they really help you, you can focus more on one of these 9 processes. Of course, surrendering everything comes at a higher stage. You can't do that artificially. So, so here's Prabhupada's point that I heard on a lecture, and he said it right here. It's the last paragraph of Mantra 17. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death? When the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. So, if you do bhakti your whole life, then when you die, things are going to go well. And if you don't, then when you die, you'll just lament that you didn't do bhakti your whole life. Because now I'm in this predicament and I need the strength of bhakti to deal with it. And death is going to be difficult if we don't have bhakti. And if we practice bhakti our whole life, it's going to be manageable. Okay, we have 3 minutes for the last verse, but the last verse is similar. Agnenaya sapataraya asman dishvani devi vayanani vidvan yuyojasman jurahanunena puistim tam deva upindihema O my Lord, powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so there will be no hindrance to my progress. So it's a very similar verse. And here Prabhupada says Krishna is addressed as fire because he can burn up sin. And then in the purport, Prabhupada talks about the yoga brashtas. If you don't become perfect, you get a chance. But Prabhupada once said in a lecture, sometimes even you get a chance, you can misuse it. So you could be born in a devotee family, but then you may, not take it up. So we can't take it for granted. And when Prabhupada told us that, he said, better you go back to Godhead in this life. Because even if you take birth in a devotee family, but specifically aristocratic family, you might get bewildered by the opulence. So just finish now. You have the chance. Why wait for another life? That was Prabhupada's message. I gave a class on this in Mayapur of how much Prabhupada stressed this life, go back to Godhead. Don't wait for another one. So that's the way Prabhupada wants us to think, and that's the way he wants us to act. Act in a way that in this life we'll finish our business. Don't stick around for another life because you don't have to. Right? Says, he's talking about the omnipotence of the Lord. He said, this is so funny and so true. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmin family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater. And he can make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmin simply on the strength of devotional service. Isn't that interesting? So then Prabhupada talks about what we already talked about, guiding the devotee from within. And then Prabhupada's saying, when the devotee's saying, please purify my sins, he also means, now I'm dying, rectify me of the wrong mentality. Just put me in the right state so I can die in the proper consciousness. And then Prabhupada says Krishna can do that because he's within the heart. So that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That if you surrender to Krishna, he'll do so much magic for you. And you also get the mercy of Prabhupada, the mercy of Guru. So if you're just sincere, you get so much help. Right? Hare Krishna. It's 9 o'clock. We finished just on time. Well, it's 9:01, but that clock says 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for listening. And it was nice. It was nice teaching you what I could teach you. I hope I didn't bore you too much. These were long classes. We had to cover all 18 shlokas. And we didn't have much time for interaction, but I hope you got the basic idea of Isopanisad and some realizations that you can take with you. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.